We're gonna have a Kickturn party tonight. All right.
George, I want to delve a little bit more into the history aspects of. So you were from Jacksonville,
Yeah.
and so how did you get out to Cali, and how did you get linked up with Z?
Okay, here's the deal. Like,
And what year was that? What time frame was that? 79, 80? What was?
I moved to LA in June of '78, and I actually flew out with Shogo, and
Cool.
I met all those guys. I don't know if you remember, Kona they had this big contest called the U.S. Open. Well, this was the big one. It was either in '77 or '78, but it was it was like the first U.S. Open,
Right,
and there was like 90 pros there, all pros from all over the U.S. Anyone who thought they were a pro skateboarder was there. You know, like everyone, all the Dogtown guys, everyone, GNS, Mike Weed, all the '70s top guys were basically there. Jerry Valdez, Bob Biniak, Alva, Jay, Shogo, everyone. And so I met all those guys then, and I actually, like, I wasn't a contest skater, but that was my local park. And I'm like, that's what I'm going to win this contest. And then I'm going to move to California, and ended up, I had first after there was like 90 people. And to go to the finals, I was tied for first with Mike Weed, and then
Nice.
Things didn't go as planned the next day. I kind of was like blacked out the night. We were partying hard, and
it was the '70s, man. I know. I've been.
Yeah.
So
yeah. So anyway, and then Shogo, we actually got busted. We got arrested, and it was pretty bad. I mean, we all went to jail, and so Shogo had to stay. So Shogo stayed for like 3 months because we had to go to court like 3 times before the lady who owned the house was like saying we were trying to break in her house and get at her dog. It was crazy. So we had to go to court 3 times. So he ended up staying like 3 months, and then him and I, we just kind of hit it off. We became really good friends. And then, and like I say, I was planning on, winning that money and going out, but it just took a different route. But I ended up selling this car I had and just flew out with Shogo, and I landed in LA. I had like $200. And then we went to Z, you know what I mean? And then they hooked me up with a board and all that. And then we just started skating, and then it didn't take long. They just asked me to be on the team, you know what I mean? And Shogo actually was in the process of leaving to go to Dogtown. So, and a lot of like Z, I probably never would have got on Z or a bunch of people if Jay hadn't left. Jay left earlier, you know what I mean? So that's how the door kind of opened for like, certain people like Polar Bear and who was actually one of the best skaters. So so Z kind of changed a lot from the fiberglass board, you know what I mean? So
yeah. I remember the original Z Flexes. That Jay's dad.
Yeah, Kent Sherwood. Yeah,
Kent
that's
Sherwood,
like my mentor, man. That guy kind of taught me, because we actually started running the factory, like after the fiber, because they made all the fiberglass boards. They had a factory. We had a factory in Inglewood, and then it was switching over to we started doing the wood, and then we ended up doing that's when they first started when the big board, like the 10-inch wide. And the first run we made somewhere, and then Kent wasn't really happy with them. So then we actually switched the factory over, and actually myself, Polar Bear, and this guy Jim Davey, and then we had a few other like Hispanic guys, but we ran the factory in I think it was like in '79. We were making all the boards ourselves. And I was thinking, I forgot I was talking to someone, but I was saying we were probably the first skateboarders to actually really run a factory and all that. You know what I mean? It was in '79. So.
Wow, right.
Got a 1978 Shogo Kubo Z-Wood with the built-in riser.
Oh, dude.
It's about new old stock. I did ride it one, but put a little scuff on the tail like a dumbass.
What?
I don't know why. but it's got the Phoenix Go wing trucks.
That's pretty.
We got Power Flex wheels.
Nice.
Naturally, 2 different color wheels, you know. So it's actually got the little crazy hanger.
So where did you rode that, or did you find that somewhere?
This come from the guy that was my neighbor that had the skateboard shop in Maryland.
Oh, yeah.
And so he put all that stuff in his freaking closet that was left over, and he ended up giving it all to me. But anyway, this is my pride and joy. I got offered $1,100 for it one time and turned it down.
That doesn't surprise me, man.
It's worth more than that.
That's a piece of history right there.
Yeah. If I hadn't a scuffed the tail on it, I mean, it's still got like the sticker, the price stick them on it.
Cool.
Right there. So anyway, I've got a reissue of the Plumber.
Nice.
Yeah, reissue. It came out probably maybe 10, 12 years ago, but it's got the chroma graphic.
Yeah, I ended up with one of those reissues too.
Yeah, this thing rides sweet, you know, and I got tunnel rocks on it. So reissue tunnel rocks, and it came with some crappy, really super soft wheels, but these tunnel rocks are great. And it's got Z-Flex trucks, which are Indy knockoffs. They're the exact same geometry and everything, and it's a great cruiser board, man.
Yeah, I think I've ridden that board once. I think I've taken a cruise on that. It's a nice board.
I really like it. So
yeah, I mean, I have a lot of Florida ones. I mean, we had a crew like, okay, you know, I don't know. I guess I'm probably a little bit from an earlier era, but like when Dogtown was, you know, like that was it, you know.
Yeah.
That was probably my thing, that I was just like so happy that I was actually able to come to California and ride for, in my mind, what was really the only company besides either Dogtown or Z-Flex were the only company I would ever want to ride for anyway, you know what I mean? And so that was pretty awesome just to be able to get out here and do that. But like, I had a full scene way before I ever came to California, you know, like, I mean, I actually started skating in the 60s, you know, and then went through all the phases I had a bunch of steel wheels, and then the clay wheels with ball bearings. And then, but where the big, most dramatic change was when the urethane wheel came out, you know, and that was before precision bearings. They were urethane, but you could actually carve, you know what I mean? You could like turn, because with clay wheels, I mean, you'd slide out or you hit a rock and you're dead. But so it was like, one of the awesome things was just the things like that. And then what became, when there was like energy trucks came out, which broke, but when you just started getting these things, like the energy truck was amazing because they turned like, because before that it was they were like Sure Grips, or they were almost like roller skate trucks in a way, you know what I mean? Like the early
Chicago's Sure Grips.
Chicago, Sure Grip. And
then you
so
finally, they had Tracker and Bennett's, and it was like, and urethane wheels. It was huge step up. Precision bearings.
Precision bearings. That was another one. And then I remember like, the first board I had that was so fast it was like Road Rider 4s and tracker trucks, and it was and I had a Logan Ersky, and I was like, oh my god, it was like, because we made all our own boards and stuff, you know. But that was, and actually that one, it didn't even have a kicktail. The first Logan Ersky I got was like, didn't even have a kicktail, but it had.
I remember those flat Logan Erskys. George, I'm just a couple of years a little bit behind.
Yeah.
So I get everything you're talking about. My first board was a Bruce Logan, Road Rider 4s. I remember I got it and just freaked out because it was so smooth and easy to ride. You know, I mean, there was just to see the whole progression from riding this little solid wood 27-inch board with, with the first precision bearings and the first urethane wheels, and then 3-4 years later, going up to the pig boards, the big fat boards, all these crazy new types of wheels, big wide trucks. It was just it was like going from the Wright brothers airplane to the space age.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, it was crazy. It was just like, and everything was just like, because at that time nothing had been done. So you get in there like, man, can we go over to the light, or I wonder if I can hit the tile, or like, you know what I mean? It was just like, because there had been no one doing it yet, you know what I mean? So, and that's what blows me away now, like the way the things that are happening. Like I remember like Christian Asoy. I've known Christian since he was 9 years old, you know, and he started ripping. There was these little bowls in Marina, and he just started. I mean, he was just doing everything. Everyone kept going, dude, go to the pool and do it. And then I'd already kind of was on the way out. I was just sort of like, I'd had some crazy injuries and it was in the end of 79 or 80. I was all, man, I'm going to just go back. I'm going to start surfing more and all that. But I hadn't been in the skate park in a long time. And I came back and Christian's doing all that stuff he was doing in those little bowls in the pool, like canyon jumps. I was like, whoa. It was like a few months. I was like, oh my God, man. And that's the thing, was just watching some of these kids like Pat Noho, who still competes, you know, and he's somewhere in his 50s. But just watching these kids progress at that time was like phenomenal, man.
Pat's a cool cat, man. We've skated some demos with him over the past 10 or 15 years. And, man, he's as consistent and gnarly as he's ever been.
Yep, and he was like that when he was 14, man. The guy was just like, I mean, he's a smooth operator, man.
Yeah,
and he's unique. Like, he actually came and rode for me for Z-Flex for a little while. You know, we did a model with him and stuff. And Pat, amazing, man. And he's got his own jam, the way he rides. And I mean, he's like,
rides a longer board, doesn't he?
Yeah, he rides at 36 or something, 38.
Yeah, he can ride anything, but yeah, he does ride a little bit longer board, yeah.
You can see my background here. You remember this?
Yeah, that's Marina. Yeah. That's
killer, man.
We did the animal series. That was like
right.
See all the guys with it. Like we had the Z Pig, that Wes Humpson did that. And this was drawn by this guy, Doug Smith, who was kind of like a very infamous street artist in Venice, you know what I mean? He did polar bears, and he did he's amazing. Humpson did the pig.
That reminds me, I wanted to ask you a question about polar bear, by the way. Now, I was watching some video, and I've watched a few videos of him skating, and you were talking about what great style he had and everything. I was watching, I guess it was videos of him at Marina, and he used to float his back foot a lot on those backside airs. Yeah, because I used to do the same thing, and I'd never seen anybody else do it before. And then I saw it. You can ask Nate.
Yeah,
you can ask Nate, Adam. Both those guys are. I used to float my back foot just like that, and I was like, "Oh, I finally found someone that does the same thing."
Oh man, his foot would be off over a foot, way off.
Yeah, Cavler was the same. It was the no fast plant.
Yeah, exactly.
Donkey.
There was there was probably a 6 to 8 month period where polar bear was probably, and I maybe I'm biased, but there's so many people that will co-sign it, that no one could touch the guy. He was he was at a level, and I don't know if you've ever seen any of his inverts, that he was the first guy to stall and extend them. Like one time I saw him, he was stalled and extended out, and he just did a full half circle and went all the way out, and he didn't pull it back in. And he landed in the bottom of the pool and made it, but snapped his tail off. So he basically did this like crazy elliptical, almost 3/4 circle, and then pulled it in right at the bottom of the pool, and it just snapped his tail off. But he landed it. He rolled out with his board just snapped right by the back
awesome.
truck.
That's awesome.
But yeah, it does. And then he just did, like, Hackett had a cover in skateboarding, like, because they used to carve and then do that, you know, because the dog bowl is like it's a right-hand kidney.
Right.
So there was that hip. So they would blast ollie into the shallow part. And Hackett did them really good, but polar bears were just, I mean, he's had like centerfolds doing it. I mean, just like insane, man. Like, yeah, he was just like, you know, but he, I don't know, like I had actually, the Dog Bowl Pro, I had just come off another injury, and then I actually like 2 days, and I wasn't even sure if I was going to be able to skate in it because I'd been out for a long time from I had a few accidents. I had a motorcycle accident and stuff, and then like my second day back, it was like a couple days before the contest, we were partying, and then I ate shit, and I woke up in the hospital, and I just basically, I said, I'm done, dude. And I went back to Florida and spent like 6 weeks. So I left like a day before the contest, but that was, I didn't really like contests, but that was a contest I was looking forward to skate in. just because it was all the boys in the local park and stuff.
Right. Those are always the most fun.
I skated with a guy named Carlos Novo at Pedlo.
Hey, Steve.
And he rode Z rollers. And I kind of got the idea that he knew you, but maybe I'm wrong. Carlos Novo?
I know him from Marty. Yeah, I met him from Marty.
Sure, yeah, Marty, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, very cool.
I mean, I would like to clear up the story on the Z roller if you guys want to hear that.
I'd love
definitely.
Because, well, here's the deal. Okay, Z basically shut down right around 80. It was Jay's stepdad, Kent Sherwood, and then this guy Chris Pass and his wife Ethel. They were all the owners of the company, and Ethel ran all the interior stuff, and Chris and then Kent ran all the manufacturing and all that. And then, but they in the end it got really ugly with those two. Like I was at the factory one day, and it was just me. I was the only one there, and these two guys were like, I finally got to they were almost at blows, and I finally just said, I kept trying to break it out. I go, look, I'll be outside. Do what you guys got to do, So it got real ugly with them, and then it shut down, and then they went to court and settled everything, and then Chris ended up. Kent was done with it anyway. Like Kent pretty much lost interest when Jay left. You know what I mean? Like that kind of broke his heart. You know what I mean? It was never the same for him. And so anyway. So I was over at Alva's like when this guy John Fowler, he went Alva when they were starting the Alva team, when it became all the guys and I was over there because their shop was in Santa Monica, and I was just over there hanging out. And then Chris came by that owns Z. He goes, "Hey, what are you doing?" I go, "I just got back in town. I'm not doing." He goes, "I started the company back. You want to come help me out?" And I'm like, "Fuck yeah, I'm not doing anything." So I went there, and then he showed me this thing. He had this fucking like roller, but it was like the urethane one, and it was like fucking big and heavy, and it had bearings inside the thing. And I was like, "What the fuck is this?" He goes, "Well, let's try this out." I go, "Hey man, it's cool, but I go, this is unfunctional." You know what I mean? And then but it was like his baby, right? And the thing is, it was like super fast, but it was fucking funky. You know what I mean? I'm on, nah, dude, don't do that. You know what I mean? But it was his baby, so I was like, whatever. And then the mistake I made was, because I saw the insert that he had inside the urethane. It was like this thing. I'm like, dude, why don't you just try it without the urethane on the thing like that? And then he ended up making this whole new truck, and that it probably would have gone and died if I wouldn't have said, why don't you try that? And then the thing was, but everyone thought that it was my thing. And but anyway, the deal was that anyone that rode for Z-Flex had to ride that truck, you know what I mean? And they actually worked, but they were terrible, you know what I mean? So, like I say, I actually had nothing to do with it. I had nothing to do with the creation, but the mistake I made was like, why don't you try just putting the insert instead of the urethane on it? But anyway, awesome. So
when I was coming up
in the 80s, man, go ahead.
I was just saying, when I was coming up in the early 80s, reading Thrasher and seeing the ads for the Z-Roller, and when I was still, very new in it, like, man, I got to get a set of those. Then I could like do curb grinds for miles. Then I learned how to grind and thought they were kind of kooky.
They were terrible. It was terrible. And everyone, but all the guys, I got to say, because we had a really good team in the 80s, and these guys all ripped, but they all rode them. I got to hand it to them, because I never would have done it. I wouldn't.
I remember seeing them. They were super heavy and just gross and
terrible. So I was supposed to go on Grasso passed on too, but I was going to go do like a love letters thing with him and just kind of set the record straight on it. But anyway.
Right.
It's too bad, but.
Yeah. Yeah, we had a memorial episode for him not long ago. That was my first board, was a Sticks Grasso. So,
yeah,
my hero.
Yeah, man. Had a lot of people, and what was cool about him, man, he spoke his mind, which you got to respect, you know what I mean? Like,
right. Well, we always gather at Kabler's house for the pool party, and we were so bummed when they sort of ousted Grasso as a commentator. That happened 2 years ago.
Well, they they would give him like 10 minutes of one heat, then they'd kick him out of the booth because, he ruffles feathers. But that was what was great about it. I mean, the early days of the streaming of the pool party, Grosso would be in there for all of the preliminary heats until the finals.
Yeah.
And that was the reason we watched.
Yeah,
We
totally.
watched it to watch Jeff. And I mean, some of the one-liners, we still laugh at that stuff.
Oh
But
man, no, the dude was a classic, dude.
it was
Oh
great.
yeah, Grosso's
Totally,
funny
you know,
guy.
and like I said, he'd say whatever, dude.
Oh, that's a good one. The Z Groove.
Oh,
So
the Z
yeah,
Groove,
George, I want to
another,
ask you about these. We were talking about the Z rollers. This is another Z gimmick that was out there for just a little bit. Did you ever ride any of these?
Yeah, I rode them 1 or 2 days, and that was it. It wasn't for me.
I skated one pair of them. They were great.
Those things were literally like rocks. They were
Yeah.
fast as hell, but terrible, man. Like, yeah.
Super
Plumer rode
hard.
them though. Jimmy Plumer rode them a lot. He ripped on them, but those wheels, I don't know what the durometer was on those, but they were like rocks, literally. But
Well, I guess in order to keep those grooves in line, if you were to make them like red Crips, like 78s or something, and you try to do anything on them, the treads would just tear off.
Yeah.
So I guess they had to make them super hard, but
they were.
I
brutal.
never even saw a set, so I have no.
The thing that was amazing is you see the little bearing in it. Those were amazing. Can you see where it says Z Groove? You see that little bearing in it?
Yeah.
Like they were these, I don't know what they were, these tiny bearings, and those were amazing. They would sometimes fuck up, but those things were so fast. So the combo of that.
Oh, so it wasn't a standard size bearing?
No, it had this insert and it had these tiny little bearings.
Wow.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. And they were fucking super fast, but they're terrible. I rode them 1 or 2 times.
Huh.
How come? Just because pebbles would get caught up in the grooves, or
You actually, if you skated them out on the street, you could get little pieces of gravel in them. Yeah. But they were mainly like people riding them in parks and stuff, but they didn't sell that many. I mean, I think they sold a fair amount, but Plumer actually rode them for a while. But the Z Smooth was okay. They weren't that great. Their urethane on a whole wasn't that good. Their urethane got a little better, and they actually started making a lot of roller. They had a whole division of roller skate wheel because like roller skating was huge in the 70s
I
and
remember
Venice and stuff, and they sold to all the skate rental. You know what I mean? Like they had some good roller skate wheels, really good, and it was a total different little market.
Yeah, they made like roller skate race wheels. I think I remember some of the guys at the roller rinks here in
Like the
Tennessee.
Zinger.
Yeah, and I think they actually did those little bearings in the roller skate wheels too.
Interesting.
Pretty sure they did that insert in there.
Embarrassingly enough, I started roller skating before I got into skateboarding. Was a speed roller skater at the rink, man, with the super hard wheels. And these guys still give me shit about it to this day.
Man, there was a guy.
There was 2 guys, Duke Rennie and Fred Blood, and those guys were amazing.
Crazy eight, man.
Yeah, but
Did you
Duke
know-
Rennie was super rad. Like Fred Blood was a little more eccentric, but Duke was like a skateboarder on roller. I mean, he was super rad. And then actually, Pat Noho's brother roller skated at the park at Marina Skate Park. He was pretty good. Mark Noho. Yeah.
George probably knows the cats you grew up skating with, Cowboy.
Britt Parrott and Ray Underhill.
Ray Underhill.
Yeah, Ray Underhill. Yeah.
Yeah, I grew up skating with some of those guys.
Yeah.
Years and years and years ago. Of course, we had our little Mid-Eastern skateboard series that spawned Marty Jimenez and Ross Cobb and a half dozen other people that all moved out to California, which brings me to another question I was want to ask you, which is now this is kind of a 70s, early 80s question, which I don't think is really that pertinent to skateboarding anymore. But what did you think about the difference between East Coast versus West Coast at the time? Because back then it was a huge deal. I mean, there was a whole different vibe and culture going on. So tell me a little bit about what you saw.
Well, I'm from the East Coast, so
Right,
I'm from the
exactly.
South.
That's
I'm
why I
from the
want your perspective.
Southeast, but yeah. I mean, I'll tell you honestly, like, because I kind of was on both sides. You know what I mean? So
Sure.
I think it's hard. How would I say this? Like, I just think that people from the East Coast think that California was like overrated or like or they didn't really have to work to get what they got, which is, I mean, as far as magazines and all that, that's true, you know what I mean?
They
But
had the pristine parks and
yeah,
everything.
they had better parks, and I grew up, fucking Florida had the terrible skate parks, you know what I
Nice
mean?
weather.
You had to build a cinder block vert wall.
Yeah. Like, I don't know if you ever heard of Land O'Lee. It was like very temporary park, but it was probably one of the record of one of the worst skate parks ever built, and that was in Jacksonville Beach. I mean, it was horrendous, like so bad. But I mean, as far as that, but I think in general, once you rode with whoever, it didn't matter. That kind of stuff didn't matter. I mean, I think a lot of it was kind of hyped up, and that's just the only thing I think that East Coast guys thought maybe the West Coast was overrated and stuff like that. I don't know.
Yeah, I always got the impression that not so much in Florida, but especially up in the northeast, up in Ohio, and that we had to skate through the winter. We had to scrape the snow off the half pipe or whatever, and it was much more of a work than beautiful California sun with a perfect pool and da da da. So I think there was always a little bit of a difference in attitude.
I think there
East
still
Coasters
is.
had to work for it more.
There still is. Cal talks to me about how he didn't realize what he cut his teeth on until he moved to California. He said where he'd just be rolling down the street and there'd be a perfect curb and all the sidewalks were smooth. And here he was dealing with asphalt and just janky curbs that were, run up into the side of a convenience store or whatever. So he really learned to appreciate what he learned to skate on. So it is a different terrain. It is a different culture. We do have skate parks, but as far as streets aesthetic goes, it's a whole different story. And I would even say that New York versus the South is a totally different story too.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, like all the guys like Philly and New York. I mean, it's like kind of a rougher kind of deal too. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I don't know. We all had our little cliques wherever we were at. You know what I mean? For sure. Did any of you guys ever ride the Getaway skate park in Alabama?
Yes. Me and Ray Underhill used to go down there about once a month.
You got some great footage of that.
I think that was the best actual. Back then, that was the best park I'd ever seen.
I never got to Cherry Hill. I never got to Apple. I never got to the Turf. I heard all of those were amazing, but I've also heard from several old timers that, especially from the West Coast, that the Getaway was one of the most amazing part. We were on a Zoom call not too long with Wally Unway, and he was like, "Oh, there was this park down in Alabama that was the most amazing thing I ever skated."
Yeah.
And actually, George, we've got some footage. There's some footage up online of Getaway.
The thing that was so amazing about it is how well it was built. Like it was so smooth, and it was the first 3/4 bowl. Had a huge keyhole pool. The snake run was insane. I mean, that snake run was amazing. I remember like the third wall was like this big. I'm regular foot, so the third wall was so big you could hit it and come down, hit it again, and then shoot into the or that snake run was amazing.
Yeah, and they had all those degree bowls that went from shallow to a little bit deeper, a little bit deeper, a little bit deeper.
Yeah.
And then up to the big pool. They had the 3/4 pocket. They had a crazy snake run. They had that nice little clover bowl, and then they had a nice little small keyhole. I'm not sure if it was keyhole. I guess it was more of a hourglass bowl or a skull bowl. That was only like 7 or 8 feet deep. that little tiny one.
There was
They
a
had a
lot of
wide
there were a lot of
variety.
bowls. It was a
Yeah.
big park.
It was
There was a lot of stuff. But that I remember that too, the transition of all the bowls, like really mellow and then a steeper one. And then like they said that clover one, I remember it had two steeper clovers and then two mellower ones.
Right. It had 2 banked ones and then 2 kind of semi-vert ones. Yeah.
Or with the edge on it,
Yeah, both of you. I never skated it.
That was
Oh.
I'd say that was the best skate park I rode back then for sure.
Yeah.
Like Marina was really good, but it wasn't like that park was so smooth compared to all of them, even
That's cool.
way smoother than Marina for sure.
Are you staying quarantined?
Well, I was quarantining a lot, but then I actually started because I shut my business down, but I actually started making masks. So like the last 3 months I've been like, I've kind of coming to the end of it. I'm actually probably still going to continue to make them, but yeah, for the last 3 months I've been making masks continuously. Like it was crazy, man. Thing like just like good time.
Let me hijack you for a second, Jay.
Yeah.
The most epic. You were talking about people trying to get a run in. The most epic session I ever witnessed was at Kona 40. It was when Jake Wooten, who is a Tennessee kid, Santa Cruz, right? Is that who's you're riding for?
Yeah, he's riding for Santa Cruz.
Good grief, that bowl session where everybody was snaking each other. That was, I could have died and been happy after
Was
that.
it the
That's
pool,
pretty
the
cool.
pool session?
Yes.
The pool or the
The pool session.
Oh, those
I
guys.
don't know
were
how they were surviving that. It's like 3 guys blasting airs over each other and just.
What about the one guy? Didn't he win it? The guy from California that just is gnarly, the goofy-footed guy. Like, and he was drunk, drinking. Like Chris Robbins. What's his name? Like, the dude's gnarly, man. He was doing
Well, if it was at Kona and he was drinking, he won a contest. That sounds like Kona.
Yeah.
yeah. This guy's gnarly, dude. It's the first time I ever saw him skate, and then I just started kind of following. But the dude was. But yeah, that session was insane.
Yeah,
like all those guys were ripping too, and they were all totally different style skating. Like there was about 5 or 6 guys that were just completely killing it, and they all totally skated totally different. It was rad, man. That was an insane session, for sure.
I would say this is probably one of the best episodes we've ever had. I can't thank you enough, George, for
Appreciate it, man.
Yes, sir, man. It's been an awesome and
even though I'm not rolling, man. I mean, honestly, I know people say that, but I totally I can't tell you, like, you know, like I owe skateboarding way more than, you know what I mean? You know, like you got a lot of guys thinking real quick, I'll just wrap, but like when that Dogtown movie came out and all that, like everyone thought they had something coming. It's like I was overpaid, man. Like I owe way more than it owes me, you know what I mean? And it still gives to me today, man, through everything I do, you know what I mean? It still opens like so many arenas for me. It's crazy, you know what I mean? But so anyway, it's, you know, it's like even if I've ridden in a long time, it's still my life, you know what I mean?
Yeah, there you go. So
yeah. Cool.
all right.
yeah, well, thanks a lot,
I appreciate it, guys.
George. Appreciate it.
Great talking to you,
George.
All right.
Thank you, man.
Thank you.
And I'll
Cool.
see you down the road. I'm going to move out there eventually, so we'll.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect. All right. I'm going to hook up with Cal too.
Right on.
All right, guys. Thank you.
All right.
Peace.
Thanks, George.
Everybody's gonna hang out here tonight. Alright. We'll pass out in the flat. Alright. Tonight. We got nothing better to do than to take 6 runs, drink a dozen brews. Don't talk about anything else. We don't wanna know. We're dedicated to beers, both and